You're listening to the Basketball Lab podcast with your hosts Mark Shannon, Mark Clark, and Marco Corona. They'll discuss all the top news and stories from around the basketball world while giving their opinion and insight. Now, here are your hosts.
Welcome back to another episode of the Basketball Lab podcast. I'm your host, Mark Shannon, and I'm joined by my co-host, Mark Clark and Marco Corona. You know, since the last time we were here, it was a touchy subject that we were talking about, something that we needed to talk about. And now we're back to talking basketball, something that we wanted to talk about last time. You know, we didn't get the chance to because of everything that was going on, and wasn't right to talk about basketball at that time. So now that basketball's back, I think everything is starting to, you know, and you're seeing all the changes with the voting and what the players wanted, and they're getting what they wanted. So I think that's we talked about that. We touched on that last week in terms of the social justice, and we needed to do that. So I think it's time to get back into some basketball talk. You know, the Toronto Raptors started off the second round against the Celtics yesterday. So I think we should get into talking about, just jump right in and talk about the Raptors Celtics. So what did you guys think about game one so far?
I'll start, I guess. I think, to be honest with you, it's one of those situations where they didn't shoot well. You know, it sort of reminded me of that game, that the Lakers and Portland, where the Lakers were sort of just going through the motion. I thought the Raptors came out way too relaxed, way too chill. To me, that seemed more like a regular season game, if you really look at it. And I think that they lacked that intensity. It could be with everything that happened over the previous 48 hours that, you know, mentally, perhaps human nature, sometimes you sort of check out. And by the time they checked in, it was too late. They were getting boat raced by the Celtics. Give the Celtics credit. They came ready to play. They play well. I don't see, you know, again, they played well, but the Raptors also played just as bad, if that makes sense, right? Mm-hmm. So the starters have to be better. We got to get more out of Mark and Siakam. I thought was very vanilla, very hesitant, but I'm not going to jump on that Siakam, let's get him out of here, let's get rid of this guy, he's not elite kind of nonsense, because every player in this bubble has had one or two clunkers. So, and he has not been hitting the lights out of the, killing it during this bubble thing. But I think it's sometimes you need a kick in the butt to get you started. And I think this was a good, if there's a such thing as a good loss, I think that this is going to motivate them going forward. I think they'll be fine, but there's some adjustments that need to be made, and they'll do it.
It was tough watching that game, especially as a Raptor fan. They played horrible. Mm-hmm. I mean, Siakam ended the first quarter with 3 points and 3 fouls. And right. He's the number one option on the team.
That's right.
As the number one option, you can't be getting into foul problems in the first quarter. Like, come on, 3 fouls in the first quarter? You can't be doing that, because then your coach is going to have to sit you for almost the entire second and third quarter.
Right.
And put you back in the fourth. Like, so I'm not gonna find excuses for the Raptors. They played horrible, and that's on them. It's their job. When they're supposed to work, they're supposed to get up and work. But I think they really had an emotional week. I mean, a video came out where they were dealing with the Masai Ujiri video and commenting on that, and then the shooting of Jacob Blake. And Laurie said it after the game. They checked out. They were ready. They were all ready to leave the bubble. And I mean, yes, they're NBA players, and as I mentioned, they're supposed to go do their job. But on the other hand, they're also humans. They have emotions. And I mean, the bubble, we'll think that, oh, they're having fun in the bubble, but it's really hard dealing being in the bubble because they're away from their family. A lot of those guys, they have young kids and they really miss their family. I mean, it's good now because today their families came out of quarantine and they're able to get to see their families, which I can bet you game 2 will be a total different game than game 1. But I mean, the Raptors got caught slipping, and by the time they realized it, it was too late. So they just had to call it a game. But I'm pretty sure game 2 will be a complete different approach by the Raptors.
Right. It's a best of 7 for a reason, right? So.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, they're not going to shoot the same way the rest of the series. Like, let's be real. They're not shooting 39% from the field all game. And you know, when a lot of their big time field goals came in that third quarter when they cut it to 12, and then they went into a cold spell again and started missing shots. But they were also 10 for 40 from the 3-point line. Like, you're not going to win games if you're not hitting threes. And they weren't missing, it wasn't like they were missing contested threes. A lot of them were wide open threes that they were just not hitting. And that was the story of the game in the bubble where they played the Celtics the same thing. Don't get me wrong. The Celtics are a great team. They're a great defensive team. They have length. They screw you up because they play small ball in a sense, right? Because they play with Dice as the number 5, and then they go smaller. But at the end of the day, the Raptors didn't shoot well. They're not going to shoot the same way the rest of the playoffs, the rest of the series. It's not going to happen. But the only one thing, I know you guys mentioned Siakam and whatever. The only thing that bothers me with him is I think he does too much sometimes. He tries to be. He sees himself as you know, the elite player. He hears the talk. He hears all that, and he gets the ball and he wants to do so much, and he turns the ball over, or he tries to go for a layup when there's 2 guys guarding him and he's got a wide open guy. You know, take an extra step, slow it down a little bit. I know they're a running gun team. They're a fast break team. They like to score on the fast break, but you know, you have guys that can shoot threes like Norm Powell, Bentley. You got to get them in rhythm. If they're not in rhythm and they're not getting shots consistently, they're not going to hit.
Right.
You know what I mean? They're not going to hit shots. And that's the only thing that bothers me. Like, you can't go 5 from 16 from the field as more or less you're supposed to be the number 1 scorer on the team, the de facto guy that the ball goes through you in a sense. But he's not going to play that way the whole series. We've seen it before with Siakam last year. He has a game where he puts up 30 points, another game where he puts up 25, another game where he puts up 15. He just, you know, sometimes he has that inconsistency, but doesn't mean that he's not an elite player. Who I know if people are calling for him to be traded, I mean, come on. It's one
Classic
game.
Toronto.
It's one game. Like, it's not. You're not talking about if he goes to series and next season he digresses. He goes back. Then okay, you know what? Then there's talk about okay, is he that elite player that we thought he was going to be? But right now, through a bubble, through 8 games, through 12 games or 13 games that he's played in the bubble, I mean, come on, you can't say that you need to trade him now. Like, that's ridiculous. But the Raptors also have to slow down the Celtics. You know, you can't allow their starting 5 to all hit double digits. Like, that's you're not slowing them down. You're letting them dictate to you the pace of play, and you have to be the ones to start on the first quarter, like they said on the broadcast. You have to be the ones to, you know, put the pressure on them in the first quarter.
Be the aggressor, yeah.
Right? Yeah, be the aggressor, put the pressure on them, get a lead or start hitting some buckets, and then the Celtics are going to have to feel that they're going to have to stop you some way. But I don't know. I mean, it's one game. I don't see it going it's going to be a short series or anything like that, like some people say. But it's definitely something that the Raptors have to work on. And like we said, you know, there's no excuse. You can't use an excuse that the bubble and all this stuff, the stuff that went on prior, because every team is going through it. It's not just them. Every team, the Celtics had to go through it too.
Fair enough.
So that's, that can't be their excuse. And they mentioned that too. They said, we can't use that as an excuse. Every team was doing the same thing. Everybody had the same mindset that we were possibly leaving this bubble. But I think that things will change in the next game. Especially we saw Freddie meeting his son today. That's good for 40, 50 points right there.
At least 75.
Right, exactly. You'll put the team on his back.
That's it. Yeah.
Say the people that's been saying trade Siakam after one game, these aren't real NBA fans. These aren't people who watch the regular season. These are just people who pop up during playoff time. These are just bandwagonists. They don't really know what's going on. But I want to say though, I'm not sure if you guys noticed this, but I feel like Siakam's game yesterday was a bit forced. Like all the players would try. I saw Laurie did this a few times, or a lot of times. He would try to give him the ball so he could post up whoever is guarding him because he had a mismatch. But that's not Siakam's game though. Like that's a bit forced. Siakam, you just gotta give him the ball whenever he gets a ball and he'll find his shot, right? I mean, it just seemed like they were making him too much of an option yesterday, and that kind of threw him off. And also, when you're in problems when Van Vliet isn't hitting.
Yeah.
If Van Vliet's shots aren't going down, your team is in problem.
Right. And again, to Mark's point, it's again because I am the de facto Boston hater, I guess, but Boston also did their job. They hit their shots, right? What's the old saying in basketball? It's a make or miss league, right? They made their shots,
yeah,
and they executed what they needed to do. They were the quicker team. They were the most desperate team. They were the more aggressive team, right? And the better team last night won. Again, let me repeat that: the better team last night won that game. In a span of a 7-game series, when you turn up the intensity, things are going to change. Listen, we can be having this discussion a week from now, and somebody else is going to boat race out of this game. Again, this is the NBA, and you guys know, even watching the Spurs back in the day, right? Guaranteed 1 or 2 games, they would look like an expansion team. You're like, what is this? They'd be losing by 20, by 25 points. It happens. There's games that it just does not go well for you. And I'll be honest with you, if you're a Raptors fan, if you're watching that game, I'd rather lose a game like that because I know I didn't play well than a game that I did everything right and you still lost, right? That game 1 was basically a throwaway, burn the tape kind of game. Mm-hmm. Get pissed off, get better, move on. That's it.
Yeah, seeing this happen earlier this season too, when Christmas game with the Raptors and Boston. Boston went to Toronto and they literally blew out the Raptors.
Yeah.
And then 2 days later, I think 2 days later, Raptors went to Boston and they won by almost 30 points. It was literally a blowout game for the Raptors there. Yeah. So, I mean, it's just one of them games that you got to get out of your system. And I mean, there's some... There's also some emotions behind it. The coach said from in practice they didn't really seem like themselves. So that does have to do with it too. I mean, whether or not you want to, you think it affects their game, it does. But again, game 2 should be a total different game. If the Raptors lose game 2, it may be just a second round thing where they have to lose 2 games first and then win the next 4. But if they do lose game 2, as a Raptor fan, I'll be a little bit worried.
Yeah, like that's what my dad texted me and he's like, oh, the Raptors, it lost again. I'm like, yeah, so what? They lost the first game every series last year. And what happened? They won the thing. They lost the first game every series last year. In Milwaukee, they lost both. Philly, they lost. I'm pretty sure they lost the first game to Philly in Toronto. And then they had to go back to Philly and win to get back home. But
we'll get our stat team to look at that.
yeah, exactly. But that's the thing, like just because you lose the first game doesn't mean anything. That's Raptors teams for you. They lose the first game, and the Celtics, and we said it's a make or miss league in the NBA. It's also a run league. If you get on a run, you score a lot of baskets. Then you're good. The Celtics went on 15-0 runs, and then the Raptors would get it to 12, and then they go on another 15-0 run. You can't allow that. Once a run stops, once a run starts, you have to try and stop it.
Yep.
That's what the Raptors have to do with their big three of Brown, Walker, and Tatum. They have to slow them down, make them play a half-court game on the defensive end, zone them up, double team them, box and one them, do whatever you have to do to get the ball out of their hands and into other people's hands. Make them make shots.
Yeah, they'll be fine.
Yeah. So, moving on to we'll stay in the East here, but we'll talk about the Bucks versus Heat. Since we know they're in the second round, we can start making our predictions on that one. So where do you guys think that series is going to go? Like, who do you have coming out of that series and making it to the Eastern Conference semis?
Wow, these are two great teams. They match up. Coaching is there, and the personnel. Obviously, I think Milwaukee's a little bit bigger on the wings. Again, if you guys recall, on our very first episode of our podcast, I said that Miami was one of those teams that, if I'm an opponent, I don't believe not wanting to play anybody. But if you want to go to that narrative, that's one of those teams that, regardless of what happens, I don't know if I come out alive, or at least not with some war wounds after that series, because they play hard. They are old school. Listen, they're not going to wow you. They're not pretty, right? It's old school 1995 circa Miami Heat, going down your downhill and in your throat. And wow, this team's good. Listen, Jimmy Butler's got it going on. He claimed today, or he said today, that he's there for business, right? This is a business trip for him, right? This team is well coached. Again, some concerns, in my opinion, about balanced scoring, but their defense is so good that they can sort of spread it out. Dragic is probably playing the best basketball we've seen him play, right? This is going to be a good series. I think this is going to be a long series. It's going to go back and forth. If they can control Giannis somehow, get him to be not efficient, buckle up, because go ahead, force Chris Middleton to be great. And I'm sure he's going to have a few good games here and there, but I think that they watched a lot of tape last year on the Toronto Raptors and how they managed in that series. And Miami has the personnel and the speed as well to keep up. And it's going to be awesome. It's going to be must-watch TV.
Said it all, Marco. They really match up well, players to players, coach to coach. As you said, Milwaukee probably has a little bit of height on Heat, but it's gonna be. If I were the Bucks, I wouldn't want to be facing the Heat in second round, because the Heat they're a really good team. As you mentioned, Butler, he wants to win. He wants to get to the finals. So he's going to give you all you got. Dragic is playing really good ball. We got Bam and Robinson. He's playing really good basketball. He's knocking down threes like it's so easy. But I agree. It's going to be a long series. Get your popcorn, man. It's going to be a good one.
Love it.
Yeah, no, I'm on the same page. I think it's going to be a good one, but I do have the Miami Heat coming out of this series. I just think their 3-point shooting is going to be the key. If you shut down Giannis, like you said, you're forcing Middleton, you're forcing Brook Lopez, you're forcing Kyle Korver, you're forcing all those guys to hit shots. Those are the guys that have to hit the shots for you. If you're plugging the lane with Bam Adebayo, you're plugging the lane with those guys, Kelly Olynyk, and you're blocking that lane. You're not giving him a lane to drive to the hoop. He's got to kick it out to those guys, and they got to hit the shots. And they have, and you mentioned it there. The Miami Heat can hit threes like nobody's business. They got Jimmy Butler, Tyler Hero, Goran Dragic, Kelly Olynyk hits from three, Duncan Robinson. That's 6 guys I've already named that could hit threes right there. Like they're a really good 3-point shooting team. Like I said, it's going to be like we all said, it's going to be a long series. It's going to go a distance, but I do think the Heat are the team that every team in the East has to look out for. That they're the team that you have to look out for if you're any team in that Eastern Conference, because they could just knock down the three. If you're knocking down the three at a good pace, you're taking an extra point over the other team every single time.
Yep.
So that's one thing that every other team will have to watch out for in the East, especially the Bucks.
If Miami finds a way to take Giannis out of the game, limit his pain points, force him to pass the ball or to take threes, they do have a chance. They really do have a good chance of winning. But the key is, can they take Giannis out of the game?
Right, and doing that in a span of, listen, you can do that in 1 or 2 games,
yeah.
right? In a regular season or whatever the case is, but doing that in a span of best 4 out of 7, that's hard to do. Can they do it? I think that they can. Again, my concern is sometimes the Miami Heat go through cold spells where they're not hitting shots. 3-pointer aside for 1 second, I understand that, but again, and the Miami Heat are well equipped overall to handle whatever Milwaukee throws at them because of coaching, because of personnel, the style of play, right? And the NBA is all about matchups too, right? And sometimes this is why you shouldn't always look at the box score based on your skill, because it's all about matchups. And sometimes you just have a matchup that doesn't work well for you, right? And you can go down the line in every single series. You look at it, it's like, okay, two teams match up well. However, this team gives this other team problems because of their length, because of how they run the floor. They play, half course, this and that, and the other team does other things that don't counter well, right? And I think that Miami is that team that can counter if they can find scoring, which, again, you have Butler, who's going to do the bulk of your scoring, but let's not forget he does also score and play D, right?
Yeah.
So he's that unicorn kind of player. And then everybody else is basically a supporting cast. And if you really think about it, guys, like, forget name brands, because I think Butler's a name brand and Siakam is hopefully getting to that stage eventually. These two teams are built the same.
Yeah.
Right? Good coaching. They don't necessarily have an elite star.
Yeah.
Again, you could make a whole other conversation about Jimmy Butler another day, but they play exactly the same. It's all about balanced scoring and playing defense. And they're going to hang their hat on defense. And that's what they're going to have to do. This is, to me, an old-fashioned series. And listen, if they keep Milwaukee under 105, 110 points, there's a chance. And I think that Miami can do that. It's going to be great. Now, I didn't actually answer your question, even though you didn't ask me. If you're asking me about who I'm picking, I'm still picking Milwaukee Bucks in 7 by this much.
Yeah, I agree with you, Marco. That was my pick as well. Bucks in 7, but it's going to be a hard-fought series. Milwaukee better hope they make it out of that round. If not, it's going to be bad news for them when it comes to Giannis.
Wow.
Yeah, and like I said, I'll go Miami in 7 on that one. So jump back to the Raptors series. Who do you guys have? What do you have the series on the Raptors?
Raps in 7. I think that eventually they figure it out, but these two teams are, again, well coached, well versed, good lineups. I think at the end of the day, the Raptors' depth eventually, steps up to the forefront. Again, Boston's a great team. We got to get Big Spain, my guy, get him involved a little bit. Again, I'm not asking for Marc Gasol of 8 years ago. We don't need him to to score 30 and 10. But he needs to be a little more consistent. And I even think he knows how to, based on his press conference. And I think the bench is going to come around as well. They're going to get a little bit more balanced scoring once the starters get their feet set, get their act together. And I think a lot of people panicked yesterday, like, oh, we should start the bench and put these guys in. Nick Nurse is trying to get these guys to get going. In order for you to put your bench in, your starters have to be consistent before you actually make that switch, right? I think that's where their depth is going to gain you an advantage over the Boston Celtics. Use your length, and I think the Raptors will be fine. But this is going to be an old-fashioned, also just like that Milwaukee series. It's going the distance, but I have the Raptors in 7.
Raptors and Celtics series, it's gonna be just as good as the Bucks Heat series. I mean, it's two good teams. They're well coached.
Yeah.
They got some really good players. I'm gonna go with Raps in 6. I think experience and depth will prevail in this season. Raptors will figure out what they need to figure out. They'll make a comeback, and I'm gonna say Raps in 6.
Yeah, I got Raps in 7. I think it's going to be a long, hard fought series. It's not going to be an easy series for any team to win this thing. I don't think it's going to be
Not for the faint of heart.
Exactly. It's not going to be 20-point wins every game for either team. It's going to be closer games. Once both teams get settled into this series and you're playing the same team for 7 games, tendencies start to show. You start honing in on those tendencies. And that's what I think the Raptors will end up doing, and they'll end up knocking off the Celtics in 7.
Yeah. And if not, we'll just trade Siakam.
Yeah. That's what all those other the fans would say, right?
Jeez.
For who? Kawhi and Chris Paul?
Yeah.
Stop this.
No, Kawhi and Pandemic P.
Pandemic P.
Wow.
No, I'm just kidding. We can't really talk about him like that after what he's done the last couple games. But keeping with it. Yeah, keeping with Canada a little bit here, is even new Maple Jordan. No offense to Andrew Wiggins, but the Maple Jordan, Jamal Murray.
Wait, hold on. Did you just make a comparison to Andrew Wiggins?
Yeah, when Andrew Wiggins was coming out of the NCAA, back in the day, they called him Maple Jordan.
Okay, I said to myself today, I'm not going to get heated. I'm not going to get mad. It's just professional.
You just triggered Marco, eh, Mark?
And then you have to bring.
That's what this is all about.
Can you stop? Stop with this nonsense. Andrew Wiggins, really? Anyways, we'll just have to edit that. I'm joking. Listen, Jamal Murray has been absolutely lights out. He's playing in a video game pace. This kid is something else. The future of Canadian basketball is in good hands. Not only with all the guys coming behind him and the guys that we already have established, but this kid is leading the way with all heart. This is what it's all about. I don't know if you can pick him in a top 10 or this, that, and the other, but it doesn't matter. The way he's playing at a championship elite level. I'm not sure how the series is going to end for him. I don't know what happens going forward, but I honestly do think that extension that he got, he's literally earned every cent so far. Give him credit, right? He's playing with so much emotion, so much passion, and as a Canadian, right here, we watch these sports, and this is what we love. To me, we can't get hit for tampering, but to me, he's almost like the perfect Raptor. Right, if you really think about it, if you want to, fantasize about the future or whatnot, this is something else. And his speech yesterday as well after that game was one of the great things I've seen in sports. It was raw emotion. It was not fabricated. I actually felt bad because a guy pours his heart and soul out in a game like that, drops 50 buckets, and you stick a microphone in his face to ask him a question to see, how he's feeling, right? He, again, don't read too much into whatever people say, but he took a lot of heat and this and that, blah, 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 because he has people don't understand and don't actually watch the sport. But I loved it. I think I always thought he was really good. Last night in this series, regardless, he can score 8 points the next game. I think that he is arrived and he's here to stay. And if you can give me that sort of raw emotion, that fierce, that energy in a playoff series, forget the regular season. I don't care about regular season. It's fine, whatever. You give me that stuff in the playoffs when it counts and it matters the most. Sign me up. What a beauty.
Great, man. He's been playing really great basketball. I mean, as he said in his post-game interview yesterday, he just wants to win. And he really is leaving it all on the floor out there.
Yeah.
I mean, this kid scores 142 points in 3 games. Joins Michael Jordan as the only other player that has done that. I mean, how great is that? He's just something else, man. He's playing, as you mentioned about his extension. He's just playing a really great basketball, and it shows. He's just trying to win. He doesn't want to go home yet. It's too early, too soon for him to go home, and he's gonna leave it all out there. He's leaving his heart on the court when it comes to his game. He's just spectacular, man. He's hitting threes. He's driving down the paint. He's just playing great basketball all around. I mean,
and they're clutch. It's clutch timing to me. It's not how many you score; it's when you score them too, right? Like I'll take a guy who gives me 20 points, but it's 20 points when I need them, not 20 points in the first half, and then you end up with, fantasy numbers. Doesn't matter. Like this is where it counts the most. He's been outstanding.
Shout out to Spida Mitchell too, because I feel like we can't talk about Jamal Murray without talking about Mitchell, because Mitchell he's stepped up. I mean, we saw him struggled earlier. Not to take anything away from Jamal Murray, of course, but we saw Mitchell struggled earlier in the bubble. But he came back and he's given it to Murray as soon as and they're just going back and forth. So I mean, it's been a great entertaining series to watch. But Jamal Murray, he's another beast, man. He's on another level right now.
All here, mental toughness.
Yeah, you mentioned Marco about the Michael Jordan. That's where the Maple Jordan thing, and that's why I threw it in there. Because that's why. But obviously, we know he's not on that level. He's not there yet. He's only been in the NBA 4 seasons.
I was more upset about you bringing up Wiggins during the
I was just saying in terms of has he taken the mantle of the best Canadian player in the NBA? That was where I was going with that, because of the fact that he's up this point total the last 4 years since he came. When he came out of Kentucky, I was worried when he first came out because he was there for one and done, right? I wasn't. I've always been like that with Canadian players. Sometimes, because they play in the AAU, they don't get a lot of a lot of big game work against bigger American players like they would
exposure. Yeah,
they don't get the exposure. They don't play like the bigger players, stuff like that. But he's translated it well coming into the NBA. He's turned it on the last 3 years, and he's made himself, that star point guard that you want to have on your team. He's the guy that you want to have as starting point guard on your team. He could shoot the ball. He could shoot the ball from 3. He doesn't get a lot of assists. He doesn't rack up assist totals, but you know what? He still hits the ball. Is he one of the most pure shooters, Canadian shooters, that's played the game? That's up for debate in terms of how he'll go down when it comes down to the end of his career. But he's killing it the last 3 games. 142 points the last 3 games. He's shooting 64% from the field, 62 from 3-point line. He single-handedly brought the Nuggets back into this series. Without him, they would have been gone before this whole thing happened. before
without him too.
before the boycott. Yeah, like without him, they would have been out of this playoffs. You know, he's single-handedly put the team. But like you go back to Spida Mitchell there, this has been as advertised. The two of them going back and forth, hitting shot after shot after shot, putting up 40-point nights, 50-point nights, 40-point nights. The back and forth has just been incredible. And
Unreal.
Game 7 is just going to be another barn burner in terms of it. I'm looking forward to watching that game. I think it'll definitely go down to the wire. It'll be a close game, but I still think the Nuggets take it. You know, got to stick with the Canadian guy there.
Yeah, fair enough.
Whoever wins that series deserves to win. They really do.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I guess my concern with Denver is if they win, I don't know what the hell they're doing defensively. I honestly don't know. Like this team is talented. Like, and again, Utah gives them a lot of fits, challenges. But sometimes I just scratch my head and it's like, what is Denver doing?
Yeah.
I don't understand. I really don't. And whatever the results are after this series, if I'm a Denver Nuggets fan, I don't know anybody, but Jamal Murray aside for 1 second, there's a lot of concerns with that team, man. But you know what? Until then, enjoy it because this has been absolutely wonderful to watch. If you're a casual fan and you just started tuning into the NBA, this is the kind of matchup that you want to stumble upon and sort of attach yourself to because it is the epitome of the NBA back and forth matchups, one-on-one sort of these two young budding stars, right? And it's just, man, it's awesome. It is amazing. And it's going to be one of those things that, when they put NBA Reels, NBA Classics, I can guarantee you this series, albeit not a defensive classic, nonetheless, it's going to be one of those things that kids look back 10 years from now and is like, oh, that was insane.
Yeah, no, I agree. Keeping up with young stars, I mean, we'll go on to Luka Doncic.
Ooh.
Luka Doncic, he's another young up-and-coming star. I mean, he's already an elite player already. I mean, we're not even going to question that. But, I mean, him going out doesn't change anything. He put up a fight in that Clippers series. They almost had to literally take him out of the series themselves by hitting him in the face. If that was the only way they were getting him out of that series.
It's just nasty play, man.
Exactly. I mean,
Trash.
It's Morris. It doesn't go without question that's what he does.
Oh, here we go.
No, I mean,
the trigger from Mark.
No, we're not. But it's the truth. We're talking about Luka Doncic here, but like, he got hurt, and it was an accident. I didn't mean to step on his foot. Yeah, we believe you. Not
first time, I believe it was an accident, but the second time, that looked deliberate to me.
Yeah, the first time when he landed in the lane, okay, I get under his shooting path, I get it, whatever. It happens all the time. But you stepped on his foot in the key. We saw you do it deliberately. And people can go online and say he wasn't even looking at him. No, it doesn't mean he was looking at him, but when he was running there, he knew where his foot was going to be. And then you punched him in the face. Yeah, he hit the ball. What are you trying to do? Deflate the ball? Like, why do you need to hit it with that much force?
Well, with that play, you realize he punched him in the face first before he got the ball, right? Because he hit him twice. He hit him across the face, and then he hit him across his shoulder.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
it just all seemed deliberate to me. But back to Luka. Luka is something special, man. You're something special when Doc Rivers says he has a man crush on you.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Hey, I mean, to each their own, I guess.
Yeah, listen, I think this series Luka has had the opportunity, and not only did he have it, he took it and he shoved it down a lot of people's throats. And we're not going to name drop here. We're just three dudes that do a podcast. We're not here to do that. But there's certain people and certain outlets of the media, and we talked about this before as well, that said that he was too slow. Mm-hmm. He doesn't play defense. He can't dribble. He doesn't create his own shots. he's not worthy of a lottery pick, right? Remember that, right? And he's been basically everything the other way around.
Yep.
Forget the speed. The guy can shoot. He can pass. He has his court vision is unreal. And again, he's only 21 years old. We're talking about a guy who's going to be in a top 5 conversation. I'm not talking about GOATs. Let's not get into that for 1 second. Not yet. But I'm talking about, year on, year out. Every year he's going to be in the top 5 conversation of best players going forward for the next 10, 15 years because he's that good. And I'm telling you right now, for a team that, number one, has 0 banners hanging from the Raptors up in the rented space playing with the Lakers, they talk a lot of smack. They need to just chill a bit. It's such a weird thing with Kawhi there because he's complete opposite of what they do.
Yeah.
But I think Luka exposed a lot of holes for the LA Clippers. Kawhi did his thing. Kawhi was Kawhi. We here in Toronto, we saw that. We've been through that. Spurs fans have seen it, done it, whatever it is. But Luka Doncic had a chance to not only listen. They were right there. They were right there. I don't know if Porzingis doesn't get hurt. I'm not sure we're having the same conversation today about this series.
If Porzingis doesn't even get ejected in the first game.
True.
I think
forgot about
I
that.
think we're talking
bunch
about
of
different series.
Right. We're talking different series, but again, I am so not to digress from Luka, but I'm so impressed with what he did. He's such a joy to watch, and I think we're going to be talking about him for a long time. And those clips about those certain individuals saying, he's too slow, he's not good enough, it's a stretch. I even know people personally that said that to me, saying that this guy is way too slow to be an NBA player. What a joke. Well, a lot of people are looking like the joke by saying that he's awesome.
Yeah.
He literally is proving them wrong. He's doing everything they said he couldn't do. I mean, he's just a spectacular player. He drives and get in the paint and get buckets. We all know he shoots from the perimeter really good. I mean, we've seen him done some crazy circus shots in that series. He's just a great all-around player. And you could tell that the Clippers were definitely going at him to try to get him out of that series.
And to his credit, Mark, he didn't back down. He was right there. And that's what impressed me. 2 things that impressed me the most about Luka was his court vision. I think I underestimated his court vision, and actually how he didn't back down from Harrell or Chicken Wing Lou or any other those clowns in the Clippers. He was right there. Like you got in his face, he got right back in your face. And I like that. He has an edge, and I like it.
It kind of reminded me of Fred VanVleet standing up to KD last series.
That's right.
It kind of felt like that for a bit, but hey, he's going to be something amazing, man.
I think he already is, and I think he's going to get better.
He already is. And again, he's so young. This guy's just 21. He's so young. He's still not even in his prime yet.
Absolutely.
He's still new to the league. So, can you imagine this guy still has developing to do?
Yeah, man. He's going to be in that conversation for MVP for the next 10 years. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about that. I mean, what he did with a bum ankle for 3 games. It wasn't like he was playing as full health. He was playing on a bum ankle for 3 games, and he put up 103 points in those 3 games. And hitting the buzzer beater, the dagger in overtime there to win the game. Where he's not that team, the Mavericks. They're going to be a tough team to beat once they get those pieces. And we talked about this earlier in the week, and I agreed with what Richard Jefferson said. That guy, Porzingis, Doncic, shouldn't be the guy standing up to those guys.
Right.
They need to get a little more toughness on that team, a little more physicality on that team to show the Marcus Morrises, those guys that You don't come around and knock my guy over. You don't slap my guy in the face. You don't slap my star player. You don't stand on his foot. You don't do any of that to him. That's my star player. You know what I mean? You're not gonna see Kawhi Leonard get up and get pissed off. Marcus Morris is gonna jump in the way. Paul George, Patrick Beverley, those guys are gonna jump in the way of Kawhi Leonard. He's not gonna fight the battle. Not that I don't think that Luka Doncic shouldn't fight the battle, but he showed that toughness, like you said. He has it. Now they need to get a few more pieces around him that show that toughness and can play basketball. They're going to be a tough team to beat in that Western Conference in the next couple of years.
Absolutely.
They've got Porzingis who can shoot. He's got length. He's a great basketball player. Sorry, Knicks, you screwed up that one. But you know, Doncic is there. Trey Burke has had a good season this year. He's had a good bounce back season this year.
Yeah.
They're a decent team going forward. They're going to be a tough team to beat, knockout in that Western Conference, in my opinion.
Agreed, for sure.
After the game, they did mention that they're going to get some dogs to come back next season to fight that battle for them instead of having their star player do that. But they're a young team that will be good. They'll in these coming years they'll be a good team. We'll be talking about them.
Absolutely.
But a quick update here: the Bucks lost to the Heat by 11 points.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, man. It's going to be that series. Like I think we said, that series is going to be a tough series. Keeping up with the Clippers. I know you mentioned it, Doncic, you know, he exposed a little bit of them. What do you think of their chances moving forward? I mean, I don't really see them making the finals after the way they played against Dallas.
You know what? I maybe we all got caught up in the hype, and maybe they turn it around. I'm not too sure. Again, we're not talking about a team that took, you know, Dallas took them to 7 games or whatnot. There's more holes than I thought with that team. Defensively, they haven't impressed me that much, really. And that's Doc Rivers' calling card as a coach, and Kawhi's calling card as well as a two-way player, one of the 2 best two-way players in the league. Whoever is a Clippers fan, all 3 of them, if I was them, I'd be a little bit worried or confused as to which team this is. If the Clippers can if the Mavericks can sort of stand up for themselves, and again, depth aside, if things were the other way, you're talking about even a 7-game series or perhaps a Clippers first round exit. They have some work to do. Again, Kawhi aside, I'm not picking on Kawhi because he's done his thing. He comes as advertised. Paul George has had his issues and whatnot. Do they turn it around? Perhaps. They'll draw probably a better matchup for them in the second round. But we're going to see. I don't think it's as a shoo-in as most people thought it was. I'll be honest with you. To be quite frank, I don't really give a crap. But sure, they haven't looked as consistent as I thought.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is accurate, but the Clippers, they remind me of the 95, 96, 97 Detroit team, Pistons, that you know when you go to play them, they're going to beat you up. They're trying to wear you down. And that's how they'll get one up in you. But if I were a Clipper fan, I'll be concerned. I mean, you see with Paul George out, pandemic P not scoring the Dallas this young Dallas team carried them to they went 6 games with them. And that shows you a lot. As you mentioned, Marco, it did expose them a little bit. There are some concerns. I mean, take Kawhi out of it. Kawhi is gonna be Kawhi. He's gonna be consistent. He's gonna give you high 20s, 30s point per game. But that's Kawhi. I mean,
I think honestly
they do need more pieces.
I think the Clippers took Dallas a little bit lightly. I think that they thought that talent alone was going to win that series.
Mm-hmm.
And as we all know, talent alone doesn't win you series. It's hard work with talent that you can overcome that, right? And so I don't necessarily agree with that Detroit comparison, only because I feel like the Clippers do a lot of talking and they chirp a lot. I understand where you were going with that, Mark. I completely understand that they try to get in your head mentally and whatnot. I just thought that the Detroit
also just wear you down too.
Right. I just thought the Detroit Pistons team, as far as comparing with the Chauncey Billups and Hamilton and Sheed, it was more about physicality and grinding it down kind of game. Whereas the Clippers it's been a little bit more run and gun, which is I'm surprised. Again, they have the personnel, so I completely get it. And it's 2020, so that's the way the NBA is run. But I'm a little bit surprised in the lack of grind. But they do a lot of this. Let's see how much of this goes on when they don't, they're not looking at a young Dallas team and they face a veteran team. And if they get to the Western Conference Finals, then they face potentially who. Then we'll see what they're made of, right? So until then, I think the jury's out. I don't know.
Yeah, no, I'm going to agree with you on all the points there. I think that they're not as good as many people, as great as many of the pundits have made them out to be. They're not this team that's just gonna dismantle every team like they made them out to be. I don't care if you got Pandemic P, Playoff P, whoever you got. It doesn't matter.
Master P.
Yeah, it doesn't literally matter.
Swaggy P.
Exactly, like literally. You can have any kind of. Yeah, never mind. Anything with we won't go there, but and it doesn't matter. You could do that. You could say he has that. Patrick Beverly is out there. He's not even playing. He's sitting on the bench. He's still talking. Like, dude, shut up. Put your mask on and shut up. Sit there and be quiet. Like, just be quiet. You're not playing. If you're playing, you bring in something to the game. You're not playing. You're sitting there. I don't even know why you're sitting on the bench. He's hurt. Like, I don't know, like, did Lou Williams bring the chicken wings back in and it got hurt,
Yeah, he's hurt. I think they don't even have a time frame for him to return.
Yeah, because he's like nobody knows what's actually wrong with him.
Yeah, he's got a broken jaw from talking.
Yeah, from talking so much.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just don't see them making it to the finals. I think the Lakers are the better team. I mean, we talked about the Lakers before the playoffs started. Should the Lakers have been worried? I mean, not now. Definitely not now. The way they've played the way they closed out that Portland series, and sticking on with them. So we'll stick on with the Lakers. We'll finish off with them. They've turned it on. They've definitely turned it on. So far after this series, do you see them like keeping this up for the rest of the playoffs?
Well, okay, I usually don't do this, and I told you guys so, and they basically did exactly what I said they were going to do. Mm-hmm. They went from, again, the wrestling term, babyface to heel. They were the aggressor. They were the better team. AD and LeBron did their thing. KCP stepped up. I'm not sure if Danny Green's still on the team, but that's not the point. They were a little bit more balanced than they were in game one. And again, the playoff intensity was way different games 2 onward than it was from game 1. And again, I thought they were going through the motions. I thought that they were sort of playing, okay, we're going to feel our way through this game. And they got punched in the mouth in game 1. And I think, to be honest with you, that was the best thing that happened to them, if you're a Lakers fan, that they actually lost that game, because it was that fire that they needed under them. Yeah. And that's what I was preaching to you guys, not preaching, but just saying that they seemed very just chill. They almost seemed too chill, right? And then they turned it on. And when AD and LeBron are going, I don't know if there is a worse matchup for any team to have. because AD is, you can make this argument or another conversation, he is a top 5, top 10 player. And as far as big man, you can probably say that he is the best one right now. And they got all their pieces going. And the better team win. Now, shout out to the Blazers, because I honestly do think, in saying all that, and it's given as much credit as I have to the Lakers. I'm not a Lakers fan, so relax. I think the Portland Blazers also ran out of gas.
Yeah.
They have been they've been in playoff mode for a long time, even before the bubble. Then they had to get themselves into a playing game, win that, then face the Lakers. Got that first win. It was emotional, and then after that, it was just unfortunate. And of course, Dame got hurt, and things just happened. And at the end of the day, the better team did win, as I thought they should have. I thought, again, it was going to be 6, but they wanted in 5. So, yeah, the beat goes on for the Lakers. I think they're fine.
I agree. And not to take anything away from the Lakers, but they were playing against a hurt Portland team that's been, they were a little bit beat up, and they were, as you said, they ran out of gas too.
Yeah.
They had to play really hard to get that 8th seed, to make it to the playoffs. And then they got to the playoffs. They're dealing with injuries and all of that. But I mean, shout out to the Lakers. They, as you said, they turned it on. They figure out what they were missing, and they stepped up. What I realized right away is that LeBron he started making shots. I mean, he just comes down and he just knocks down a 3 out of nowhere. KCP was also making shots. I think Danny Green made like 2 threes, but that's Danny Green for you. But I think they really went back to the drawing board. They realized what they were missing, and they fixed that. We'll see what they'll do in the next series, but they really stepped up, and it was good to see. I mean, I'm no Laker fan as you aren't, Marco, but I mean, it was good to see that I mean, how embarrassing it would be just for the Lakers to go first round.
Not good for the league, that's for sure.
That would have been crazy, but
not good for ratings.
Yeah, it was good to see they figured it out. They made shots. They also were good on defense, and it worked out for them.
Yeah, they ended that series, and after that first game, they were back to that pre-pandemic team that they were. They were playing good offense, playing good defense, beating teams. And that's what they came back to. LeBron and AD were terrorizing teams, and that's what they were doing pre-pandemic. And they were doing that when they first came back into the bubble.
No,
they were struggling on the offense, struggling on defense. They weren't, but like you said in pre-podcasts here that we've done, other podcasts that we've done, was that sort of the chill phase. Like, they were just chilling because they kind of knew they were getting that first seed. They went into it kind of, rope-a-dope. We'll let you take one game, but we're going to come out and just beat the crap out of you. Like kind of like Muhammad Ali. And then, you have the Kobe Bryant incident happened. Kobe Bryant's birthday came up. The Lakers went out and just absolutely dismantled the Blazers. Then we had the boycotts. The game, those went down, and then the Lakers came out on Saturday and just took them out again. Took the Blazers out again and played just like dominant basketball. Yep. Anthony Davis is back to his normal ways. So I don't think there's anything to worry about the Lakers. I do think they make it to the finals, to at least the Western Conference Finals for sure. I guess we'll see what happens then. But they definitely are the best team in the West when they're playing like this, hands down.
Absolutely. Agreed. Yeah.
I agree. And I know we're about to wrap up. Just before we wrap up, I just want to shout out to all the people who've been supporting the podcast, who've been listening on Spotify, on Apple, wherever you listen to your podcast. Also, who've been watching on YouTube. Shout out to you. If you're new to the channel, if you're new to the podcast, remember to subscribe. Hit the bell for notifications when we to be notified when we drop a new video. And like, subscribe, share.
Well said. Again, to your point, thank you so much for everybody. We are, again, just three dudes that like to talk about basketball. We're not pretending to be somebody who we're not. And we just love talking about basketball. It's been a tough year for everybody with everything that's going on in the world, pandemics and social injustice. I mean, you name it, it's things that happen pretty much on a weekly basis. So we're just here to just talk some smack about, Lou Williams and
Paul George
and Andrew Wiggins. All joking aside, we do appreciate the support, and hopefully we are providing some sort of, distraction to what's going on in real life out there. Because after all, this is just basketball, and we just like to talk about it. So thank you very much.
Yeah, I agree. It's good to see that people are listening, and we like to hear we like to see people commenting and talking about it, and that's what we're doing this for. We're not doing it for money. We're not doing it for fame. We're not doing it for any of that. We're just, like you said, talking about basketball because we like it. That's all we're doing.
Sure.
All right. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Basketball Lab podcast. Thanks for joining us this week on the Basketball Lab podcast. Make sure to follow us on our social media. You could follow us on Instagram at _basketball lab, on Twitter at @BBallLab. You could also subscribe to our YouTube channel, The Basketball Lab, and you could find us on iTunes and Spotify.